Hi viewers, in this video we are going to discuss about the JPA mapping of one-to-one associations. Before that, I introduce myself. I am Shankar, working as assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Let's go to the video. Today topic is one-to-one associations. In Java Persistence API, mapping one-to-one association between entities is a common scenario where each instance of one entity is associated with a single instance of another entity and vice versa. A one-to-one relationship implies that each record in one entity corresponds to exactly one record in another entity. Also, it can be mapped into two ways: unidirectional one-to-one association, bidirectional one-to-one association. So first, we'll see unidirectional one-to-one association. In our unidirectional one-to-one association, one entity has a reference to other entity, but the other entity does not have a reference back. For example, if we consider two entities called person and passport entities, where each person has exactly one passport, but passport does not reference a person. For that example, we have given example a simple code. So we have two entities called person and passport entity. So let's consider the basic packages that we need to import to create an entity with one-to-one mapping. So initially, three basics packages have been included in person entity. So that are Java x.persistence.entity, Java x.persistence.id, Java x.persistence.one-to-one. So as we know very well, the entity which helps you to create a class it into entity, ID which helps you to create primary key attributes, and one-to-one which helps you to map the associations. So here we have a class called person. The class is annotated with the annotation called entity, which helps you to create a class it into entity. This entity person can have three attributes called ID. Sorry, two attributes called ID and name. So here the ID as annotated with @ID, so which means that it has been created as primary key, and the next attribute called name doesn't have any annotation, so it is a normal attribute to the entity. So here we have annotated one-to-one for passport class. This class also we have defined in the right hand side. So at entity is an annotation which helps you to create an entity. The entity name is passport. The passport can have two attributes called ID and number. ID is created as long as a data type, and also it has been created as primary key because it has annotated with that ID. And the number has defined as string data type because the passport number will be in the combination of character and numbers. So here we have assigned one-to-one relationship with unidirectional. One entity can refer the another entity. The next one is bidirectional one-to-one association. In a bidirectional one-to-one association, each entity has a reference to the other. You need to use at one-to-one annotation on both the sides of the relationship. If we continue with the same example as person and passport entity, we can map the bidirectional relationship as follows. So you just see here the same code, but here the one to in previous example in person side we have used only one to one as an annotation, but here we have used that at one to one mapped by equal to person, because here we have referenced both, that is the reference it as bidirectional. So this similarly in the passport side we have used again one to one annotation, and we have used another annotation called at join column, which helps you to assign a primary key. At join column is helps you to create a foreign key. So here we have used the foreign key as person ID. So for this we have some set of key consideration we can see detailing. First we'll see the at join column annotation. So already I said that the at join column annotation is used to specify foreign key column for the association. So in bidirectional one-to-one mapping at joint column. So in this example, at joint column, we have used name equal to person ID, which means that it is used in the passport entity to define the foreign key. And next one is mapped by attribute. So it was recently we have used in the bidirectional mapping. You just look at once at one-to-one within the bracket, we have used mapped by equal to person. So in a bidirectional association, the mapped by attribute is used to indicate which side owns the relationship. For example, in the person entity, we have defined mapped equal to person, which indicates that the passport entity owns the relationship. Next one is cascade operation. This is actually the following key considerations we have not used here, but also we need to know why these are. Next one is cascade operations. You might need to specify cascading operations if you want operations on one entity to propagate to other associated entity. For example, if we have mentioned like at one-to-one, cascade equal to cascade type dot all, which means that it would propagate all operations like persist, merge, remove, etc. from the owning side to the associated entity. And the next one is fetching strategy. You can specify how JPA should fetch the associated entity using fetch attribute. Options include fetch type dot lazy and fetch type dot eager. For example, at one-to-one, we need to specify fetch equal to fetch type dot lazy or fetch type dot eager. And the next one is optional versus mandatory associations. By default, a one-to-one association is optional. It meaning that associated entity can be null. To make the association mandatory, you can use optional equal to false in the one-to-one annotation. I thank you all for watching this lecture series. I thank you once again.